Hello, I'm joined today by Sarah Marshall, who is going to talk about her book, Playa Dust in My Soul. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today, John.
Hey, no problem at all. So, tell us a little bit about the book then. What's it all about? How does it all work? Big
So,
question.
arguably, it's about Burning Man. It's
Right.
about a Burning Man experience. And if you've ever talked to anybody that's gone, no two people describe it the same way.
I have
And
never even heard of Burning Man.
okay. Well, let's start at the
Let's start
basics.
there, yeah.
Okay. So, Burning Man is an annual event in one of the most remote deserts in the United States.
Mm.
And it's some people think it's a big party, some people think it's an art festival, some people think it's a music festival, what it is an event that happens in a very intense desert environment, which could wind, rain, dust, you name it. High temperatures in the day, low temperatures at night. And then there is the festival itself, the event that itself, and all the things that happen. And most of it happens unscripted. So you just never know what you're going to be dealing with out there.
Right.
And I first went in the beginning of the 2000s. I had an amazing experience. And I've spent the last 26 years trying to figure out how to tell that story.
Right. Wow. Sounds epic. So carry on then. How was that? What was your first experience like, I guess, is where I'll come from there.
So it was so far from any experience I'd ever had. And I'd been a world traveler before I went there, but it was so far from any cultural experience I've ever had. I walked around for the first 3 days with my mouth open. It was, there were art projects out there, installations that were, rattled the imagination, the intense physical environment, the different kinds of people that were there, and all kinds. Like my identity completely did a 360-degree barrel loop because it didn't. The things that I thought that mattered about people didn't matter out there. The culture that I experienced in every part of the world, it was different out there. And it was such a unique environment that I thought it deserved a story to build that world.
Yeah, yeah. Which is a neat segue into world building, which is what primarily the podcast is about. So, within the book of A Playa Dust in My Soul, how it talks about a specific place that already exists. So, what world building did you do with regard to that?
Great question. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you talk to 10 people and ask for their version of what Burning Man is, you'd get 10 answers because it is so otherworldly that everybody experiences from their own point of view and can only explain it based on their own experience, which in my case, even though I'd been a world traveler, I had no words to describe it at first. So what I've done to create this world is I've created 7 characters that each come from very different perspectives, and they come to the event in its different forms. The first character comes out there, and there's absolutely nothing but desert. And then the next character comes out, and there are a few things built, and so on and so forth until the entire city's built. And the last character comes on board when there is a full city in full swing out there and has a very different experience based on his entry point. But each of the characters come in with their own baggage, their own worldview, and they have a completely different experience of that world.
Okay. So, can you just, what were some of the difficulties that you faced regarding that approach to world building?
The number one issue that I had was that I was when I conceived of the story, I was not a writer, not a fiction writer that could tell a story. And so I had vast amounts of information about this event, but I didn't have a story to tell. And I had to carve the story from all that information so that it would be engaging for somebody that was reading it, and not just an encyclopedia of Burning Man, so to speak.
Right. Okay. So you basically had to learn the craft, create the characters which were engaging, and tell the perspective from each of those rather than just list what Burning Man actually was. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Right.
And describe it in experiential terms. What is it? What is it like to encounter this place, and how do you respond to it as a person?
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Can you give us? I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, Sarah, but can you give us an example of that? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll just start with my experience, and then I can start talking about my characters. So my experience was coming onto this desert where you have to pitch your tent and get yourself set up with a place to live, et cetera, et cetera. And then walking out into this vast array of art projects and lights and moving cars that look like they come from Mad Max, and there is a culture.
Sorry, I know you're explaining. I know I've just asked you to explain, but that thing you said there, cars that look like Mad Max, that was already in my mind. So is that really what it's like? Just
literally, there is a group out there that looked like Mad Max people and built a Thunderdome where people battle with soft clubs and stuff.
Soft clubs. Takes the edge off slightly, doesn't it?
But that's just one version. There are as many camps that have different imaginations for what that could look like are the things that are out there. So no matter where you go, what time of day you go, you're going to encounter something completely unexpected.
Wow. Okay. So I don't suppose I can go back to the explanation bit now, could I?
Sure. So there's a couple of key things out there that couple of values that the event holds that makes the culture unique. The first one, the one that I found most powerful for me, is that it's a culture of gifting. That means that you come out there completely prepared to take care of yourself, and you bring something more. And that something more can be anything. It can be an experience, a service, something that your camp does for the rest of the city. It's whatever you want to contribute. So that immediately takes the walls down, because if you're walking down the street in London or New York or San Francisco and somebody offers you a meal or offers you an experience, you're going to be suspicious. But out there, it is the norm to be offered something with no strings attached.
Wow.
So that's one of the big differences that takes you out of the norm of culture. The next one is that it's a participatory culture. In other words, you go out there, you're being expected to participate in whatever happens. You're not an observer. There's no audience. You are the performance, whatever that performance is. And that, for me, was very uncomfortable because I'm not a performer. I don't stand up and do things for people, etc. So that made me uncomfortable in a good way right from the start. I knew that people were going to be expecting me to jump in and participate with whatever was going on.
Right.
So
okay.
There's a number of other values, but those are ones that really impacted me right from the get-go and threw me out of my comfort zone.
Right. So whereabouts is this desert? Whereabouts is it exactly? I mean, because obviously this has got a UK audience, maybe some EU people. It's got a few people in the States as well, and they will probably know. But whereabouts is this?
This event takes place in what's called the Black Rock Desert, and if you look it up on a map, it looks like it's about a little less than 100 miles away from Reno, Nevada, up in the middle of northern Nevada.
Right, gotcha.
But you'll see that there is this big lake bed, this what they call the playa. It's dried out. It's just hard deck. Packed mush.
Yeah.
And out in the middle of this is a 100-mile long playa, and the event takes place on that lake bed in between a couple of mountain ranges.
Amazing.
And it's literally, there is nothing growing out there, nothing out there except for this event. Anything that gets out there is because somebody brought it.
That's incredible. It makes you wonder sometimes, the first people who did that and thought, yeah, we'll go out here and have build a sort of mini city and have an event out here. You wonder where the idea came from.
Well, it's interesting. Burning Man first took place in San Francisco at Baker Beach. There's a whole story behind that. But after a couple of years, the city of San Francisco didn't like the size of what was happening there, et cetera, and they needed to find a new home. In the meantime, there was an organization called the Cacophony Society who just liked to go out in the desert and blow things up. And that's why they were out in the middle of this vast nothingness of nowhere. And the event moved out there and then turned into a thing.
Ah, amazing. Quite the story of evolution there, isn't it?
Yeah, I gave you the very short version, but it was a long and interesting evolution. Yes.
Brilliant. So one of your first characters arrives there and basically there's not much there. Is that related to the time scale in terms of decades, or is that an experience in a smaller snapshot?
Because the city is built in whole every year from nothing to something to nothing. It's the year that this particular mythical Burning Man event happened. And my first character that I introduce in the book is on what's called the DPW, the Department of Public Works. They're the folks that go out early and create the road grid structure and put up a few nascent buildings and that sort of thing to house stuff that's there for the entire event. And then as the city opens up and other folks come in, everybody comes in and builds the rest of the city based on whatever their specifications are. So it's unique and magical every year and looks different every year.
Wow, just incredible.
So my first character gets out there and there is absolutely nothing. And he's building with the build crew that's in the DPW. And then slowly other characters come in. My next character is an artist who's building an installation out there. And he comes out there to build his installation on the own and runs into all kinds of problems. Right. And then we start layering in folks that are less involved with building the event and maybe building their own village or their own thing, or building an art car and taking it out there, or just coming to celebrate the event. And each character has a very different experience based on when they came in, how ready and grounded they were to be in the event, and whether they'd ever been there before.
Now, you hint at something there. You say how ready they are and grounded they are for the event. So I guess there's a few surprises.
Oh, they all have their shortcomings when it comes to how they get into the event. Every one of these characters has faults and warts that they have to deal with, and they all have to face them as they go through the intensity of the event.
Yeah. So when I have these conversations about sci-fi and fantasy worlds and stuff like this, I mean, or even dystopian worlds, what we're describing here is a world based on a real world, right?
Yes.
Just sliced up into different time slots, really, I suppose, and different experiences. So normally I ask questions like, what would be the limitation of technology, or what would be a limitation on magic you've put in to that type of world? I don't have an equivalent question for you, really.
You can actually ask both those questions, because the only technology that is out there is the technology that people bring. There is nothing. There is nothing to support anything out there. At least in the early years when I was out there, you literally couldn't get a phone signal out there. So everything that happens was built on the inventions of technology that you either brought or you built in place and figured out. So while the technology out there isn't particularly science fiction, it is certainly born out of the creativity of the folks that come out there.
Yeah, so that'd be the fantastical side of things, wouldn't it, really, I suppose?
It really is, in terms of building shelter, building abilities to communicate with each other, etc. It all comes out of imagination. And there is a mystical element. There is one place that I have all my characters visit at some point that they have a mystical experience.
Oh, really?
And it's part of forwarding them looking at themselves and having to deal with whatever shortcomings they brought into the mix.
Right. Okay. So it's a challenge of their own doing type of thing.
Absolutely. And each one of them has a way to their normal survival techniques to be okay in any position they're put in. And they also have shortcomings in the way that they look at the world, and that gets in the way of how they address what's happening out in the event.
Sounds interesting. So we've got an idea of the snapshot of the book. Was it what was some of the best parts about writing the book that you had, and equally, what are some of the worst parts of writing the book that you had?
Yeah, so the best parts were, because I took it from 7 different perspectives, I got to see Burning Man through multiple eyes.
Right.
Ones that were excited about being there and ready to play, ones that were not excited about being there and having a very difficult time acclimating. I got the chance to explore different aspects of Burning Man. For example, I'll give you one example of things that would happen out there. There's a thing when you come in, you get checked at the gate, then you drive in and you come to a greeter station. At the greeter station, you get the map and you get the who, what, where, when guide, which is basically an event listing, and you get greeted, welcome to Burning Man. And it's a special treat for anybody, especially a new person comes out, they come out and ring a bell, but they make you feel very welcome as you walk into the city. I've never seen anything like that anywhere else. And that's one of many experiences that people have. So it was exciting to be able to look at it through different people's eyes, and then be able to, through those eyes, construct an entire event that you can see the whole of as the reader. The difficult part was exactly the same thing. Which things do I talk about? Which perspectives do I take?
Yeah.
How are they going to interact, and what does that do?
Yeah.
And that's where the carving the story out of the information. It literally took me 20 plus years to tell the story.
Wow, that's a long time.
Well, I'd pick it up and I'd put it down. I had to learn how to write in the process.
Yeah.
I had a whole career I was dealing with on the side. So
yeah. I mean, what was that? What was that career you were dealing with on the side as your main career, I guess?
So I'm a Silicon Valley scion. I have spent several decades working around tech companies and that sort of thing. Right. So it's a very different kind of environment than this wild, woolly, out in the middle of nowhere event.
Fantastic. Well, I've got to say, Sarah, that sounds like an exciting read. I mean, basically, how would you describe it? How would you describe that book, actually?
So if I were to use one word to describe what this book is about, it's about belonging.
Right.
And this event, however it's shaped year to year, provides a community, and it provides this accepting community of oddballs. Mm-hmm. So everybody that comes out there may feel disaffected, but they're part of a large group of people that are, disaffected in regular life, and then having an experience out at Burning Man of feeling connected and in community. Right. So the
quite a healing thing, I think. Yeah.
Yes. The theme of the book is belonging and getting past whatever is in your way to belong. And each of the character has their own journey with that throughout the story.
Oh, that's brilliant. So it took 20 years to write. Are you self-published? Is it published by a house? How is it?
I self-published purposefully because much like the event, nothing's clean, nothing's commercial, nothing. In fact, a commercial activity is not allowed out there. I wanted it to be scrappy, so I self-published. It's available on Amazon, and I'm happy with that.
Brilliant. So when did you publish it?
Right at the end of the year, on I think it was the 27th.
It's a recent book.
Yeah. So it's just out there. It's just, people are picking it up and reading it now, and
good.
I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I was going to say you must be feeling quite pleased about that. That's quite good to have that already.
The way I wrote it, it was, if you've gone to Burning Man, and especially if you have a long-term relationship with Burning Man, you'll see 1,000 Easter eggs in there. Oh, I know that guy, or I've seen that thing, or whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
But I've also written it so that if you've never been, you get a full and rich experience of what that event would be like if you were out there.
Yeah. So you mentioned it was an annual event, and you've recorded a few of that in your book. How long do you reckon it's going to go on for?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it's been a question every year of, is it this the year that the fees from the Bureau of Land Management are going to be too high, or the expectations of, because there was nothing out there originally back in the late 90s when it was first out there.
Yeah.
But it's become much more civilized. It's much larger. My first year there were 19,000, I think, 19,000. There's now 80,000 people going out there every year.
Wow.
It's I believe, the fourth largest city in Nevada for a week.
Incredible. Crime? Is there any crime? Or
just like anywhere else, there is. I would guess that the statistics are statistically less because you're self-selecting and there's only so many tickets. So most of the folks out there are going to be decent citizens, and
self-selection's a big thing, isn't it? So yeah, definitely.
And they buy into the values of the event. There are a few bad eggs that always show up in every event. So occasionally, I haven't heard a lot about theft, but I have somebody generally manages to die out there every year from something.
It is a desert, isn't it? So I suppose that's only to be expected.
And I would call it Disneyland without all the safety equipment. Right? It's just you're going to jump on moving vehicles and blah 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 blah. Somebody's going to get hurt at some point. So there's definitely things happen. It's not a big part of the story out there.
No, yeah. So I don't want to dwell on that because it was just a throwaway question, really. Yeah. So yeah. So all right. So basically, the time you spent doing this, you obviously had to learn how to write, which is a challenge in itself. What was and you mentioned that perspectives or points of view was the main challenge, I guess, because you found it difficult to really am I right that you found it difficult to compartmentalize what another character could see/experience, or have I got that wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, each of the characters had both their strengths and their limitations on what they could see and how they could see it.
Yeah.
And for example, my first character comes on when there's nothing there. He had a particular point of view of what it was going to be like. And that point of view continuously was challenged throughout the arc of the story. Because every time he thought he had hold of what it was, it would shift into something.
Move away. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have one character who's trans, and I'm trans, and I certainly had a trans experience out there. And that particular character it's based on some of my experiences, but that character is much more dramatic and broken than I was. So,
I love it. Yeah.
But the common experience that I have with that character is I went out there just a few years after I transitioned, and I had a sensibility about it that I was an outsider anywhere I went. Like I was wearing trans on the front of my identity instead of the back of my identity. And when I got out there, nobody cared. It wasn't even an important part of my identity to most of the folks that were out there. And I had to go through a whole week of adjusting myself to having this thing that I thought was so important in my identity mean nothing. And then if that means nothing, then what's next? Who am I? What do I do?
Yeah. I think any right-thinking person, things like being trans or things like being LGBT, in various different ways, they don't really matter. It doesn't matter. How can it matter? It's just people being people, isn't it? So
when you get to the core of it, exactly. Yeah. It's just, and that's what you get to out there is you pare down to the common experience of being human with other humans and being in a community with those humans. And that is the magical aspect of that event.
Yeah, I can imagine. So there'll be a feeling of elation as you develop your relationship with the Burning Man experience. That would be quite good. Does that come across in the book as well?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the major aspects of the book. How people that are so unlike each other get thrown together and then suddenly find common ground for their experience.
So who have you written this book for?
Yeah.
Who have you written this book for?
Great question. I wrote it as a love letter to Burning Man. But largely I've written it for people that have never gone and may never go there. So they can have the experience of what it's like to be in that environment from the safety of their armchair or wherever they happen to be. Because most of the things that I've seen about the event either index on the art and music aspect, or it indexes on the lascivious nature of a big event, a big party. And I think all of those things miss the personal mark that is touched by experiencing the event. And I wanted to give that to people that may never have that experience, at least out there.
It's quite poignant, yeah. So, okay. So before we go, have you got anything else to tell anyone about the book, yourself, the challenges, the experiences?
When people ask me if they should go to Burning Man, I'd say, here are all the intensities that you may experience out there, because you never know year to year what you're going to get. You need to be prepared to do that. I never would want to talk anybody into doing that. If you're prepared for that, by all means, go have that experience. It will be powerful. Some days it's great. Other days it sucks, just like life. And people should have that experience. And if they want to read about that, they can certainly go to my website where the book is, and they can find whatever version of it they want there.
Yeah. So your website is playadustinmysoul.com, isn't it?
All one word, yes. www.playadustinmysoul.com.
You pronounce it Playa, don't you?
Playa, as in the lazy player, Playa.
Obviously, it's the correct way. I'm just doing it the wrong way.
Well, playa is a Spanish word for beach, right? And so it's used to describe this. I mean, there's no water there. It's at least in the summertime. It's all web cracked, hard packed playa.
Brilliant. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll pop some bits of credits here on the screen for when I do the post-production. But unless there's anything else, I think that's it, isn't it?
That's all. That's all there is. That's
right.
The whole story.
Well, brilliant, Sarah. Thanks very much for coming along. This is Sarah Marshall talking about her book, Playa Dust in My Soul, available at playadustinmysoul.com, all one word, and we'll have that in the show notes and everything else. So thank you very much, Sarah, for popping along.
Thank you, John. Looking forward to your UK audience having a listen.
Yeah.